The thunder of hooves echoed across the dusty plains as Cassidy Zimmerman raced her mare toward the horizon. Her charcoal sketches clutched tightly to her chest. Behind her, the mocking laughter of Silver Creek's respectable citizens faded into the howling wind. Dreams didn't belong to women like her, they said, especially not dreams of designing grand buildings in a world where women were expected to design only dinner tables and nurseries. It was 1878, and the Wyoming Territory had just begun to transform from wild frontier to something resembling civilization. Silver Creek sat nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, a growing town built on cattle, commerce, and rigid expectations. At 23, Cassidy had already learned the bitter truth that being the daughter of the town's widowed seamstress afforded her little respect and even less opportunity. Her mare slowed to a trot as they approached the abandoned homestead that had become Cassidy's sanctuary. The small cabin, with its sagging porch and weathered walls, had been abandoned years ago when drought drove the original settlers eastward. Now it served as the one place where Cassidy could unfurl her drawings without judgment, sketches of magnificent structures with soaring ceilings and innovative designs that would never find life in Silver Creek. She dismounted, patting her horse's sweaty neck. "They'll never understand, Pepper," she whispered, her voice catching. "They look at my drawings like they're some kind of sin." Earlier that day, she'd made the mistake of showing her latest designs to Mr. Donovan at the general store when he commented on her always buying quality paper and pencils. His initial interest had turned to ridicule when he realized she wasn't drawing flowers or portraits but buildings, actual architectural drawings with precise measurements and structural details. "Architecture? That's men's work, girl." He'd laughed, loud enough for the entire store to hear. "Better turn those fancy sketches into patterns for dresses. That's what women are meant to design." The humiliation still burned as she pushed open the cabin door, the hinges protesting with a rusty groan. Inside, she spread her drawings across the wooden table, the only piece of furniture left by the previous owners that hadn't been scavenged or rotted away. Cassidy traced her finger over the lines of what she envisioned as a grand opera house, the kind she'd read about in Eastern newspapers. Something elegant yet practical, with perfect acoustics and seating designed so every patron could see clearly. It would never be built, of course, not by her hand. The sound of approaching hoofbeats jolted her from her thoughts. Visitors to this remote spot were rare and unwelcome. Hastily, she gathered her drawings, shoving them beneath a loose floorboard she discovered during her first visit. Through the grimy window, she watched a tall figure dismount from a chestnut stallion. The man moved with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to the saddle, his broad shoulders and the glint of a star on his vest marking him as someone of authority. The new deputy, perhaps. She'd heard talk in town about Sheriff Taylor hiring help. A firm knock rattled the door. "Hello? Anybody in there?" Cassidy considered remaining silent, but the man had clearly seen Pepper tethered outside. With reluctance, she opened the door. "Madam," the stranger tipped his hat, revealing tousled copper-brown hair and eyes the color of summer sage. "Deputy Cole Blackburn. Hope I'm not intruding." "This isn't my property," Cassidy replied cautiously. "I just come here sometimes to think." His gaze swept over her, not unkindly. "You're Martin Zimmerman's daughter, aren't you? The seamstress's girl." She lifted her chin. "Cassidy Zimmerman. My father passed when I was 12. It's just my mother and me now." "I'm sorry for your loss," he said, and seemed to mean it. "Mind if I come in? Been riding patrol since sunup, and my canteens run dry." Reluctantly, Cassidy stepped aside. The cabin suddenly felt much smaller with his presence filling it. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with the lean, muscular build of a man who worked hard for his living. "What brings the law all the way out here?" she asked, watching him carefully as he surveyed the cabin's interior. "Cattle rustlers working the North Range," he explained. his eyes lingering on the table where her drawings had been moments before. Thought I might cut their trail. Haven't had much luck. He turned his attention fully to her. And you? Most young ladies don't ride out alone to abandoned homesteads. Most young ladies don't do a lot of things I do, she answered with a hint of defiance. A smile tugged at his lips. Fair enough. His boot scraped against the loose floorboard, causing it to shift slightly. Before Cassidy could distract him, he glanced down, noticing the corner of paper peeking out. Dropped something? He asked, already crouching to investigate. Please don't, but it was too late. He'd already lifted the board, revealing her carefully hidden sketches. To her surprise, instead of the ridicule she expected, his expression turned to one of genuine interest as he lifted the first drawing. Did you do these? He asked, studying the detailed elevation of her opera house. Cassidy nodded stiffly, preparing for the inevitable mockery. Yes. He whistled low. These are remarkable. The detail. The perspective. He looked up, meeting her eyes with newfound respect. You've got real talent, Miss Zimmerman. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. Most people think it's foolish. Women don't become architects. Maybe not yet, Cole said, carefully returning the drawings. But times are changing, even out here in the territories. Not in Silver Creek, they're not, Cassidy replied bitterly, taking the sketches and smoothing them with care. To them, I'm just Elizabeth Zimmerman's peculiar daughter who should be looking for a husband instead of drawing buildings that will never exist. Cole leaned against the table, arms crossed. Is that what you want? For these buildings to exist? The question struck her speechless for a moment. No one had ever asked what she wanted. More than anything, she finally admitted. But without formal training. I knew an architect in Denver, Cole said thoughtfully. Studied in Chicago. Had books, whole libraries of them. Said that's how he learned half of what he knows. Hope flickered in Cassidy's chest, quickly extinguished by reality. Books cost money. Money for frivolous things isn't something we have much of. Nothing about these drawings seems frivolous to me, Cole replied. He reached for his canteen, taking a small sip of the water Cassidy had offered. Why hide them out here? Cassidy moved toward the window, gazing out at the vast, empty landscape. Because here, no one tells me what a woman should or shouldn't dream about. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the occasional whinny from the horses outside. Finally, Cole straightened, placing his hat back on his head. I should continue my patrol, he said. But I'd like to see more of your work sometime, if you'd be willing. Cassidy studied him, searching for any sign of insincerity. Finding none, she nodded cautiously. Perhaps. As he mounted his horse, he turned back to her. Miss Zimmerman? Don't let them convince you that your dreams aren't worth pursuing. The loudest voices aren't always the wisest. With that, he tipped his hat and rode away, leaving Cassidy staring after him with a strange sense that something significant had just occurred, though she couldn't quite name what it was. The following morning, Cassidy awoke to her mother's gentle shake. Cassidy, dear, you're needed at the mercantile. Mrs. Fulton's wedding dress needs final adjustments, and my arthritis is flaring something terrible. Cassidy nodded, brushing sleep from her eyes. Their small home behind the seamstress shop was modest but clean, the result of her mother's tireless efforts to maintain respectability despite their limited means. Elizabeth Zimmerman had once been the wife of a promising young rancher, but his death from pneumonia had left her with nothing but debts, a young daughter, and the sewing skills that now kept them afloat. I'll go right away, Cassidy promised, quickly dressing in a simple blue cotton dress. Her architectural dreams might burn bright, but practicality demanded that she help support their household. especially on days when her mother's gnarled hands couldn't manage the delicate stitchwork that had become their livelihood. The mercantile bustled with morning activity when Cassidy arrived. She nodded politely to several townspeople, receiving cool acknowledgments in return. Yesterday's public ridicule had clearly made the rounds. Mrs. Peterson, the banker's wife, actually turned her back when Cassidy passed, as if architectural aspirations were somehow contagious. "Cassidy! There you are," Mrs. Fulton called from near the fabric counter. The young bride-to-be stood on a small platform, her elaborate wedding gown in need of hemming. "Your mother sent word you'd be coming instead. I do hope she feels better soon." "Thank you. She's just resting today," Cassidy replied, reaching for the sewing kit she carried. As she knelt to examine the hem, she became aware of hushed voices nearby. "Imagine thinking she could design buildings when she can barely design a proper life for herself," came Mrs. Henderson's carrying whisper. "No husband prospects, living off her poor mother's labor. And now these delusions of doing a man's profession." "Harold said her drawings were quite childish," added Mrs. Donovan, the shopkeeper's wife, "playing at being an architect when she should be focusing on more suitable accomplishments." Cassidy's cheeks burned, but she kept her head down, focusing on each careful stitch. The small pearl-headed pins felt like tiny weapons in her trembling fingers as she marked the new hemline. "I think what you're doing is admirable," Mrs. Fulton whispered, apparently having overheard as well. "My cousin in New York City says women back east are beginning to do all sorts of interesting work." Cassidy smiled gratefully up at the bride. At 20, Isabella Fulton had been the schoolteacher until her engagement to the town doctor. She was one of the few educated women in Silver Creek who didn't treat Cassidy's ambitions as a personal affront. The bell above the mercantile door jingled, and the store fell momentarily silent as Deputy Blackburn entered. Cassidy kept her focus on her work, though she could feel his presence as surely as the afternoon sun through the shop windows. "Ladies," he greeted, nodding respectfully to the gathered women before approaching Mr. Donovan at the counter. "Need to restock a few supplies." The women's attention shifted immediately, their gossip about Cassidy forgotten in favor of assessing the handsome new deputy. Widows and mothers of eligible daughters moved strategically closer, offering welcoming smiles. Cassidy finished pinning the hem and stood, brushing dust from her skirt. "That should do it, Mrs. Fulton. I'll have this finished by tomorrow afternoon." "Thank you, Cassidy. You have such a steady hand," Isabella replied, carefully stepping down from the platform. As Cassidy helped Isabella out of the wedding gown and back into her day dress in the small fitting room, she couldn't help but overhear the conversation at the counter. "Deputy, you really must join us for Sunday dinner," Mrs. Henderson was saying. "My Charlotte makes the most delicious apple pie." "That's mighty kind, madam," came Cole's polite response. "But I'm riding out to check on the Wallace property tomorrow. Been reports of trespassers." "The old Wallace place?" "Nobody's lived there for years," Mr. Donovan commented. "Just that strange Zimmerman girl uses it as some kind of hideaway. Always riding out there with her papers and pencils, playing at being an architect." He chuckled. "Women. Next thing you know, they'll want to vote." There was a pause, and when Cole spoke again, his voice carried a cool edge that silenced the shopkeeper's laughter. "Actually, Mr. Donovan, Wyoming Territory granted women's suffrage nearly 10 years ago. And as for Miss Zimmerman's architectural interests, I've seen her work. It shows remarkable talent and technical understanding." The stunned silence that followed was broken only when Isabella emerged from the fitting room, Cassidy behind her with the wedding dress carefully folded over her arm. "Deputy Blackburn," Isabella greeted cheerfully. "Have you met Cassidy Zimmerman? She's the most talented seamstress in town, though her true gift lies elsewhere." Cole tipped his hat, his eyes meeting Cassidy's with quiet understanding. Miss Zimmerman and I have met, yes. Her reputation for exceptional work precedes her in more ways than one. The pointed comment wasn't lost on those gathered, and Cassidy felt a rush of gratitude tinged with embarrassment. No man had ever defended her ambitions before, certainly not publicly. "If you'll excuse me," Cassidy murmured, desperate to escape the stares. "I should get this back to the shop." "Actually, Miss Zimmerman," Cole said, "I was hoping to speak with you about a matter. May I walk you back to your mother's shop?" Before she could respond, Mrs. Henderson interjected, "Deputy, surely whatever official business you have can wait until the poor girl finishes her duties. Charlotte's expecting you for tea this afternoon. Remember?" Cole's smile remained polite but firm. "I don't recall accepting that invitation, madam, and my business with Miss Zimmerman is rather urgent." He turned back to Cassidy. "Shall we?" With the entire mercantile watching, Cassidy nodded and allowed Cole to hold the door for her. The spring sunshine felt like freedom after the stifling atmosphere inside, and she took a deep breath of fresh air as they walked down the wooden sidewalk toward her mother's shop. "You didn't need to do that," she said quietly when they were out of earshot. "Defend me, I mean, I didn't say anything that wasn't true," Cole replied, matching his stride to hers. "Besides, I've never had much patience for small minds in large groups." Despite herself, Cassidy smiled. "Is there really urgent business? Or was that just a convenient escape?" "Both, actually." Cole reached into his vest and withdrew a small package wrapped in brown paper. "This arrived on yesterday's stage. I thought you might find it interesting." Curious, Cassidy shifted the wedding dress to free one hand and accepted the package. When she unwrapped it, she found a slender book titled Elements of Architectural Design by Henry Hawley. Her breath caught. "How did you?" "Sent a telegram to that architect friend in Denver I mentioned. Asked if he could recommend something for a talented beginner. He sent this along." Cole's eyes crinkled at the corners as he smiled. "Consider it on indefinite loan." Cassidy ran her fingers reverently over the embossed cover. "I don't know what to say." "You could try thank you," Cole suggested with gentle humor. "Thank you," she whispered, clutching the book to her chest alongside the wedding dress. "But why would you do this for me? You hardly know me." Cole was silent for a few steps, his expression thoughtful. "When I was 16, I wanted to be a doctor. Had a knack for it, could set a bone better than most trained physicians, according to our town doctor. But my family couldn't afford medical school, and nobody in our town thought a rancher's son had any business aspiring to medicine." He glanced sideways at her. "I know what it's like to have dreams others think aren't meant for you." "Yet you became a deputy," Cassidy observed. "Found another way to help people," he agreed. "But I've never forgotten what it felt like to have a calling others couldn't or wouldn't understand." They had reached the seamstress shop, and Cole stopped, turning to face her. "Your drawings are exceptional, Miss Zimmerman. With proper guidance, who knows what you might achieve." The sincerity in his eyes threatened to undo her carefully maintained composure. "Most people would say you're encouraging foolishness." "Most people say a lot of things that history proves wrong," he countered. "Look at what's happening back east, women attending universities, entering professions previously closed to them. The world is changing, Miss Zimmerman, even if Silver Creek hasn't noticed yet." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken by the distant church bell tolling the hour. "I should go," Cassidy said reluctantly. "Mother will be wondering where I am, and I have to start on these alterations." Cole nodded. "Of course, but perhaps." He hesitated, then continued with careful deliberation. "Perhaps I could call on you properly sometime? There's a new exhibition of building designs coming to Cheyenne next month. Might be educational." The invitation caught Cassidy by surprise. Was it professional interest in her architectural ambitions, or something more personal. Either way, the prospect of seeing architectural exhibits and spending more time with the intriguing deputy sent a flutter through her chest that had nothing to do with architecture. "I'd like that," she answered, surprised by her own boldness. With a tip of his hat and a smile that transformed his serious face, Cole turned to leave. "Until then, Miss Zimmerman. Enjoy the book." Cassidy watched him walk away, the precious architecture book clutched against her heart. For the first time since her father died, someone believed in her dreams and something told her that might just change everything. The following weeks brought subtle shifts to Cassidy's routine. Each morning, she helped her mother with sewing orders, her fingers working automatically, while her mind cataloged the architectural principles she'd been studying each night by lamplight. Cole's borrowed book had opened a world of technical knowledge she'd previously only guessed at: load-bearing structures, stress distribution, the mathematical precision behind seemingly simple design elements. On Tuesdays and Fridays, when her mother could spare her, Cassidy would ride to the abandoned Wallace homestead, now transformed into an improvised studio. She'd spread her increasingly sophisticated drawings across the table, applying the principles from the book to her designs with growing confidence. It was on one such Friday in late April when Cole found her there, bent over a complex floor plan for a courthouse. She'd been so absorbed in her work that she hadn't heard his approach until his horse nickered a greeting to Pepper. "Deputy Blackburn," she said, startled but pleased as he appeared in the doorway. "Miss Zimmerman," he returned with a smile. "I thought I might find you here." He removed his hat, revealing hair slightly damp from exertion. "May I?" She nodded, gesturing him inside. Over the past month, they'd fallen into a comfortable pattern. He would happen by during his patrols and they would talk about architecture, about books, about the changing Western territories. Sometimes he brought news from larger cities, newspaper clippings about new buildings or engineering marvels that might interest her. She found herself looking forward to these visits with an eagerness that both thrilled and frightened her. "What are you working on today?" he asked, approaching the table where her drawings lay. "A courthouse," she explained, moving aside to let him see. "I've been studying judicial buildings, trying to understand how their function dictates their form. Courts need excellent acoustics, clear sight lines, and an arrangement that establishes authority while still being accessible." Cole studied the drawing with genuine interest. "You've incorporated skylights." "For natural illumination," Cassidy confirmed. "Artificial lighting is inconsistent and creates shadows that can obscure expressions and evidence. Natural light, properly directed, solves that problem." "Practical and beautiful," Cole murmured, tracing the elegant dome she designed over the main courtroom. "You think of things most architects probably overlook." "Because I'm a woman?" she asked, a defensive edge creeping into her voice. "Because you think beyond convention," he corrected gently. "It's not about being a man or woman. It's about seeing possibilities others miss." The tension in her shoulders eased. "My father used to say something similar. He believed we were put on this earth to create beauty from chaos. He just meant ranch land, not buildings." "Smart man," Cole commented. "Speaking of beauty from chaos." He reached into his saddlebag and withdrew a newspaper carefully folded to display a particular article. "Thought you might want to see this." Cassidy took the paper, her eyes widening as she read the headline, "Woman Architect Wins Commission for New Chicago Library." Beneath was a small portrait of a severe-looking woman with her hair pulled tightly back, identified as Louise Bethune. "This is real," she whispered, scanning the article with mounting excitement. "A woman actually designing a public building?" "Apparently, she's been practicing architecture in Buffalo, New York for several years," Cole explained. "First woman to be admitted to the American Institute of Architects, according to that piece." Cassidy sank onto the room's sole chair, clutching the newspaper. I never thought. I hoped, but to see proof. That your dreams aren't impossible after all? Cole finished for her, his voice gentle. She looked up at him, suddenly aware of how close he stood, how the afternoon light caught the gold flecks in his green eyes. Why do you keep doing this? Encouraging me when everyone else thinks I'm delusional. Cole considered her question seriously. I suppose because I see something in you worth encouraging. Talent, determination, vision. His voice softened. And because watching your face light up when you talk about architecture makes even the hardest day worthwhile. The air between them seemed to thicken, charged with unspoken possibilities. For a breathless moment, Cassidy thought he might lean down to kiss her and realized with a jolt that she wanted him to. Instead, he cleared his throat and stepped back. About that exhibition in Cheyenne I mentioned. It opens next weekend. I've arranged for 3 days leave from Sheriff Taylor. If your mother could spare you, and if you'd still like to go. Yes, Cassidy said, perhaps too quickly. I'd have to ask Mother, but I'm sure arrangements could be made. Excellent, Cole replied, his professional demeanor returning. My sister Clara lives in Cheyenne with her husband. I've already written to her. You could stay with them and I'd take a room at the hotel nearby. Everything completely proper, of course. The thought of traveling to Cheyenne, a real city with real architecture, sent excitement coursing through her veins. Mother will insist on every propriety being observed, she warned him. I would expect nothing less, Cole assured her. I'll call on you formally tomorrow to discuss the details with your mother. As he prepared to leave, Cassidy carefully folded the newspaper article. Thank you for this. And for everything. Cole paused at the door, his expression softening. You don't need to thank me for believing what's plainly true, Miss Zimmerman. Your talent speaks for itself. I'm just listening. After he departed, Cassidy remained at the table, staring at her drawings with renewed determination. If Louise Bethune could become a real architect in New York, perhaps Cassidy Zimmerman could do the same in the West. And perhaps, just perhaps, she didn't have to choose between her professional dreams and the personal ones that were beginning to take shape whenever Deputy Blackburn was near. Convincing her mother proved easier than expected. Elizabeth Zimmerman had watched her daughter's growing friendship with the deputy with cautious approval, recognizing in Cole a steadiness and integrity that reminded her of her late husband. Cheyenne, though, she mused when Cassidy explained the invitation. It's quite far, and you've never traveled alone. I wouldn't be alone, Cassidy pointed out. Deputy Blackburn's sister will chaperone me, and he'll be nearby but separate. It's a real architectural exhibition, Mother. The first one I've ever had the chance to see. Elizabeth studied her daughter's flushed face and bright eyes. This means a great deal to you, doesn't it? Not just the architecture, but the deputy's support of your interest in it. Cassidy looked down, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from her skirt. He believes in me. Not many people do. I have always believed in you, her mother said gently. I just worried about the disappointment you might face. The world can be cruel to women with unconventional dreams. I know, Cassidy acknowledged. But Deputy Blackburn says the world is changing. There's even a woman architect back east who just won a commission for a public building. Her mother's eyebrows rose in surprise. Is that so? Well, perhaps things are changing indeed. She reached for her daughter's hand. Your father would be proud of your determination. He never did believe in letting others define what was possible. Tears pricked at Cassidy's eyes. Do you think he would approve of my dreams? Of Deputy Blackburn? Your father wanted you to be happy and to use the considerable gifts God gave you, Elizabeth replied. As for the deputy, he seems a good man, honorable, and he clearly sees your worth. She squeezed Cassidy's hand. Yes, you may go to Cheyenne, but I expect detailed letters, proper behavior, and your return on Wednesday's stage. No exceptions. Cassidy threw her arms around her mother. Thank you. I'll be the model of propriety, I promise. The following Saturday found Cassidy aboard the eastbound train to Cheyenne, her heart racing with anticipation. Cole sat across from her in the passenger car, his tall frame looking somewhat cramped in the narrow seats. Between them sat Mrs. Abernathy, the minister's elderly widow who had volunteered to accompany them on the journey to further ensure propriety. First time on a train, Miss Zimmerman? Cole asked, noticing how she pressed her nose to the window as the landscape rushed by. First time leaving Silver Creek, she admitted. I never realized how vast everything is. Wait until you see Cheyenne, he said with a smile. It's grown considerably since becoming the territorial capital. New buildings going up all the time, some quite impressive architecturally. Mrs. Abernathy coughed delicately. While I'm sure Miss Zimmerman's interest in buildings is unusual, perhaps we might discuss more suitable topics? The weather, perhaps, or the latest church social. Cole caught Cassidy's eye, a hint of mischief in his expression. Of course, Mrs. Abernathy, though I must say, the new church in Laramie has the most fascinating flying buttresses. Architectural marvels, really? Deputy Blackburn, the older woman admonished, though her lips twitched suspiciously. You are incorrigible. The rest of the journey passed pleasantly, with Cole pointing out landmarks and telling stories of his early days in the territory. By the time they reached Cheyenne, Mrs. Abernathy had nodded off, her head bobbing gently with the train's movement. She means well, Cassidy whispered as the train began slowing for their approach into the station. She just doesn't understand why a woman would care about architecture. Few do, Cole acknowledged quietly, which makes those who truly understand all the more valuable. The warmth in his gaze made her cheeks flush, and she looked away, focusing on the buildings coming into view as they entered Cheyenne. The territorial capital was indeed impressive after the modest scale of Silver Creek. Multi-story brick buildings lined the main streets, with architectural details Cassidy had only seen in illustrations: cornices, decorative pediments, arched windows with keystones. She drank in every detail, mentally cataloging elements she might incorporate into her own designs. At the station, they were met by Clara Blackburn Peterson, Cole's sister, whose auburn hair and green eyes marked her clear family resemblance. She greeted Cassidy warmly and helped settle Mrs. Abernathy at the hotel, where she would rest before catching the afternoon train back to Silver Creek. Cole's told me all about your architectural interests, Clara said as they drove to her home in a smart buggy. My husband Thomas is a contractor, so we've quite the collection of building manuals and architectural journals. You're welcome to browse them during your stay. That's very kind, Cassidy replied, already feeling at ease with Cole's sister. I've had limited access to proper architectural resources. Yet Cole says your designs show remarkable intuition and technical skill, Clara commented with a sidelong glance. My brother doesn't offer praise lightly, Miss Zimmerman. Please call me Cassidy, she offered, conscious of Cole sitting behind them in the buggy, pretending not to listen. Cassidy it is, then, Clara agreed with a smile. And you must call me Clara. I have a feeling we're going to be good friends. Clara's home proved to be a handsome two-story brick residence with a wraparound porch and elegant bay windows. Inside, it was furnished with tasteful simplicity, the walls lined with bookshelves that made Cassidy's heart leap with anticipation. Thomas is away on business until tomorrow, Clara explained as she showed Cassidy to a comfortable guest room. But he's looking forward to meeting you at dinner tomorrow evening. He's quite interested in hearing about your designs. Your husband doesn't find it strange that a woman would want to design buildings? Cassidy asked cautiously. Clara laughed. Thomas believes talent should be recognized regardless of who possesses it. Besides, he works with a female designer in Denver, occasionally a Mrs. Fowler who specializes in residential architecture. Times are changing, Cassidy, even in the West. After refreshing herself, Cassidy joined Cole and Clara for lunch. They planned to visit the architectural exhibition that afternoon, followed by a tour of Cheyenne's most notable buildings. The exhibition features models and drawings from architects across the country, Cole explained as they ate, including detailed plans for several government buildings currently under construction in Washington. You seem to know a great deal about architecture for a deputy sheriff, Cassidy observed. A fleeting shadow crossed Cole's face. I told you I wanted to be a doctor once. After that dream died, I developed diverse interests. Reading about architecture reminds me of the connection between form and function that first attracted me to medicine. Clara reached over to squeeze her brother's hand. Cole has always been interested in how things work, people, buildings, communities. It's what makes him such a good lawman. He sees the structures beneath the surface. The afternoon at the exhibition exceeded all Cassidy's expectations. Housed in Cheyenne's new civic hall, the displays showcased architectural styles ranging from imposing Romanesque to elegant Queen Anne. Cassidy moved from exhibit to exhibit in a state of rapture, filling pages in her small notebook with observations and quick sketches. Cole stayed close, occasionally pointing out details she might find interesting or explaining construction methods he'd observed during his travels. His knowledge impressed her almost as much as his patience with her endless questions and enthusiasm. Look at this roofline, she whispered excitedly, pointing to a model of a New York apartment building. See how the architect used decorative elements to disguise the utilitarian ventilation system? It's practical but beautiful. Rather like someone else I know, Cole murmured, his eyes fixed not on the model but on her. The comment caught her off guard, and she looked up to find him watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. Before she could respond, Clara approached with a distinguished-looking gentleman in tow. Cassidy, Cole, I'd like you to meet Professor James Wilson from the Denver School of Engineering, she introduced. Professor, this is my brother, Deputy Cole Blackburn, and Miss Cassidy Zimmerman. The professor, a bearded man of about 60 with keen eyes behind wire-rimmed spectacles, nodded politely. A pleasure to meet you both. Mrs. Peterson tells me you have an interest in architecture. Miss Zimmerman? Yes, sir, Cassidy replied, suddenly conscious of her simple dress and lack of formal education, though I've had no formal training. The best architects combine natural talent with technical knowledge, Wilson said thoughtfully. The latter can be taught, the former cannot. Do you have any of your work with you? Cassidy hesitated, then reached for her satchel. I brought a few preliminary sketches. They're quite rough. Let me be the judge of that, Wilson interrupted, not unkindly. With trembling hands, Cassidy extracted several drawings, including her courthouse design and sketches for a library with an innovative open floor plan. The professor studied them in silence, his expression unreadable. Finally, he looked up, his eyes sharp with interest. These show remarkable promise, he said, surprising Cassidy with his candor. Your grasp of spatial relationships is intuitive, and your structural solutions, while unconventional, are sound. He tapped the library design. This circulation pattern is particularly innovative. Have you considered formal education in architecture or engineering? That hasn't seemed possible, Cassidy admitted. Women aren't generally accepted into such programs. Generally, no, Wilson conceded. But exceptions exist for exceptional talent. The Denver School has admitted 2 female students to the engineering program in the past 5 years. He handed the drawings back to her. If you're serious about pursuing this, Miss Zimmerman, I would be willing to review a formal portfolio. Our fall term begins in September. Cassidy stared at him in disbelief. Are you suggesting I might be accepted to your school? I'm suggesting it would be a waste of considerable talent if you didn't at least apply, Wilson clarified. Talent like yours deserves development, regardless of gender conventions. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a card. My details. Send your portfolio by July if you wish to be considered. After the professor departed, Cassidy stood motionless, the card clutched in her hand. Did that really just happen? She whispered to Cole. It really did, he confirmed, his face alight with pride. Though I'm not at all surprised. I told you your talent would be recognized if given the chance. Clara beamed at them both. This calls for celebration. Dinner at the Grand Hotel tonight, my treat. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur as they toured Cheyenne's architectural highlights. Cassidy's mind raced with possibilities she'd never dared consider before. Formal training. A legitimate path to becoming an architect. It seemed too incredible to be true. That evening at the Grand Hotel, seated at a table in the elegant dining room with Cole across from her and Clara beside her, reality began to sink in. Even if Professor Wilson would accept me, she said quietly, there's the matter of tuition. Mother and I can barely maintain our current living. Cole set down his fork, his expression serious. There are scholarships for promising students. And Denver isn't so far that you couldn't return to help your mother during school holidays. You've been thinking about this, Cassidy realized. I've been hoping for it, he corrected gently. Hoping you'd find someone who could see your potential and offer a path forward. Clara looked between them with knowing eyes. Well, I should retire early. Thomas arrives on the morning train, and I want to be well rested. She stood, waving away Cole's attempt to rise. No need to escort me, brother. The hotel is providing a carriage, and it's only 3 blocks. You two enjoy your coffee. After Clara departed, a subtle shift occurred in the atmosphere between them. Without the buffer of his sister's presence, Cassidy became acutely aware of Cole, the breadth of his shoulders in his formal jacket, the way the candlelight caught in his hair, the steadiness of his gaze when it rested on her. Thank you, she said finally, for bringing me here, for believing in me when no one else did. Not true, Cole replied with a small smile. Your mother believes in you. And now Professor Wilson does too. But you were first, Cassidy insisted. You saw something in my crude drawings that day at the Wallace place that made you think I might actually have a future in this. Cole was quiet for a moment, turning his coffee cup slowly between his hands. When I was a boy, my father took me to see a master glassblower in St. Louis. I watched this man transform molten glass into the most exquisite shapes, delicate, perfect, seemingly impossible. When I asked how he knew what to do, he said he could see the finished piece within the formless glass. His hands just had to find it. He looked up at her, his eyes intense. That's what I saw when I looked at your drawings, Cassidy. Someone who could see the finished building within blank paper. That kind of vision is rare. The use of her given name didn't escape her notice. Cole, she ventured, testing the intimacy of it. What happens when we return to Silver Creek? Will everything go back to the way it was? How could it? He asked simply. You've been seen by someone who can open doors for you. Your path has changed. I meant between us, Cassidy clarified, gathering her courage. These past weeks, you've become important to me, more than just as a supporter of my architectural ambitions. A slow smile spread across Cole's face, warming his eyes. Miss Zimmerman, are you saying you've developed a personal interest in me? I believe I am, she admitted, her cheeks flushing. Though if you don't share such feelings, I completely Cassidy, he interrupted gently, reaching across the table to take her hand. I've been half in love with you since I saw you bent over that table in the Wallace place, creating beauty out of nothing but pencil and paper. Every day since has only deepened that feeling. Her heart seemed to stop, then race forward. You have. I have, he confirmed. But I wanted to be certain you saw me as more than just the man who happened to support your dreams. I wanted you to know your own worth first. And now, she whispered. Cole's thumb traced a gentle pattern across her knuckles. Now, I'd like your permission to court you properly. To see if what's growing between us might build into something as solid and beautiful as the structures you design. Joy bubbled up inside her, effervescent and bright. I would like that very much, she said, turning her hand to intertwine her fingers with his. Though I warn you, I still intend to pursue architecture. If Professor Wilson's offer proves genuine, I would expect nothing less, Cole assured her, his grip tightening slightly. The woman I'm falling in love with wouldn't abandon her calling. I wouldn't want her to. The word love hung in the air between them, neither too hastily spoken nor easily dismissed. It felt right, Cassidy realized, as right as the perfect arch over a doorway or the precise angle of a supporting beam. Something perfectly balanced between aspiration and foundation. They remained at the table long after their coffee grew cold, talking of dreams and possibilities, of Denver and Silver Creek, of a future neither had imagined possible just months before. And when Cole finally escorted her back to his sister's home, his hand at the small of her back felt like both protection and promise, the first strokes of a design they might draft together. The return to Silver Creek brought both challenges and changes. News of Cassidy's meeting with Professor Wilson spread quickly, transforming her from an object of ridicule to one of curious speculation. Some, like Mrs. Donovan, remained openly skeptical. A woman architect? Preposterous, she declared loudly at the Sunday social following their return. Even if she got into that school, who would hire her? Who would trust a building designed by a female? Others, however, began to reassess the quiet seamstress's daughter with newfound interest. Mr. Wallace, the banker whose family had originally owned Cassidy's wilderness sanctuary, approached her after church service. Here you've been using our old homestead as a drawing studio, he said, surprising her with his friendly tone. Got no objection to that. Place has stood empty too long. He hesitated, then added, my wife mentioned you have real talent for design. We've been considering building a new home in town. Might you have time to sketch some ideas? Nothing formal, just to see your approach. Stunned, Cassidy could only nod. I'd be honored, Mr. Wallace. Cole, standing nearby, caught her eye and winked, a silent, I told you so, that warmed her from within. Their courtship had begun in earnest since their return, with Cole calling at the Zimmerman home 3 evenings a week and escorting Cassidy to church on Sundays. Elizabeth Zimmerman watched the developing relationship with quiet approval, especially after Cole had privately spoken to her about his intentions toward her daughter. He respects your dreams, Elizabeth told Cassidy one evening as they prepared for bed. That's rarer than you might think. Your father respected mine, and it made all the difference in our marriage. What were your dreams, Mother? Cassidy asked, realizing she'd never thought to ask before. Elizabeth smiled wistfully. To write poetry. I had quite a collection of verses before I married your father. He encouraged me to send some to magazines back east. Had 3 published before you were born. I never knew, Cassidy whispered, seeing her mother in a new light. Why did you stop? Life intervened. Your father's death. The struggle to survive. She patted Cassidy's hand. But I never stopped writing in my heart. And now I have the joy of watching you pursue your dreams with the support of a good man. It feels like coming full circle. As May turned to June, Cassidy worked feverishly to prepare her portfolio for Professor Wilson. Cole contributed where he could, procuring better quality paper and drawing implements, while Thomas Peterson, Clara's husband, sent architectural journals and textbooks from Cheyenne. Every spare moment was devoted to refining her designs, incorporating the technical knowledge she'd gained from her studies. The Wallace Commission proved surprisingly fulfilling. After several meetings with the banker and his wife, Cassidy created designs for an elegant but practical home that incorporated Mrs. Wallace's desire for entertaining space with Mr. Wallace's insistence on reasonable cost and maintenance. When she presented the final drawings, the couple's obvious pleasure confirmed what Cole had been telling her all along: her talent transcended gender expectations when given the chance to shine. "Mrs. Abernathy mentioned you're applying to some architectural school in Denver," Mrs. Wallace commented as she studied the house plans. "Will you be leaving Silver Creek then?" "If I'm accepted, yes," Cassidy confirmed. "The term begins in September." "What about Deputy Blackburn?" the older woman asked, her expression knowing. "Town's been talking about your courtship. Seems serious." Cassidy felt her cheeks warm. "We're discussing possibilities." In truth, she and Cole had spent many evenings grappling with the question of how to reconcile her educational ambitions with their deepening relationship. Cole had been steadfast in his support of her Denver plans, but neither could ignore the geographic complication it presented. The answer came unexpectedly in late June, when Sheriff Taylor announced his intention to retire at year's end. "County's looking for a replacement," he told Cole over coffee at the jailhouse. "Your name's at the top of their list, given your record these past months. Job comes with a decent salary increase and the house on Maple Street." Cole thoughtfully relayed this information to Cassidy that evening as they sat on her mother's porch, watching fireflies dance in the gathering dusk. "Sheriff of Silver Creek," she mused, trying to gauge his interest. "That would mean putting down permanent roots here." "It would," he agreed, "though I've been considering my options carefully." He reached for her hand, his expression serious in the fading light. "Denver's only a day's journey by train from here. A sheriff makes his own schedule, more or less. And Denver's close enough that a man might visit his wife there while she completes her education." Cassidy's breath caught. His wife. Cole smiled, a touch of nervousness showing through his usual confidence. "I had planned a more romantic proposal, but since we're discussing future logistics," he shifted to face her fully. "Cassidy Zimmerman, I love you, your mind, your talent, your determination, your heart. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? Not to replace your dreams, but to share them." Joy bloomed within her chest, expanding until she thought she might float away with the fireflies. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, Cole Blackburn, I will marry you." He kissed her then, a gentle pressing of lips that held both tenderness and promise. When they separated, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box containing a simple gold ring set with a single pearl. "It was my grandmother's," he explained as he slipped it onto her finger. "Clara helped me retrieve it when we were in Cheyenne." "It's perfect," Cassidy assured him, admiring how the pearl caught the last light of day. "But are you certain about this arrangement? A wife in Denver while you remain in Silver Creek?" "It's only for a few years," Cole pointed out, "and I believe anything truly worthwhile is worth the temporary sacrifice. Your education is worth it, Cassidy. Our future is worth it." July brought two momentous developments. First, Professor Wilson's letter arrived, confirming Cassidy's acceptance to the architectural program with a partial scholarship based on her portfolio's exceptional quality. Second, Cole formally asked Elizabeth Zimmerman for her daughter's hand in marriage. "He proposed making an honest woman of me before I go gallivanting off to Denver to study with men," Cassidy told her mother with a laugh after Cole had departed with her blessing. Elizabeth shook her head, though her eyes were bright with happiness. "That young man knows exactly what he's getting himself into," loving a woman with ambitions beyond the ordinary. I couldn't wish for a better match for you. They planned a simple August wedding, allowing time for Cassidy to settle Cole into the rhythms of managing a household before she departed for Denver. The town's reaction to their engagement ranged from genuine delight to poorly concealed surprise that the handsome deputy would choose the architectural oddity over more conventional prospects. Imagine turning down Charlotte Henderson for a girl who draws buildings. Mrs. Peterson sniffed loudly enough to be overheard at the mercantile. Must be some kind of misplaced charity. Or perhaps, came Mr. Wallace's unexpected intervention. Deputy Blackburn simply recognizes exceptional quality when he sees it. Miss Zimmerman is designing our new home, and I assure you, her talent is remarkable. The deputy is fortunate to have secured such an accomplished bride. Word of the banker's endorsement spread quickly, shifting public opinion further in Cassidy's favor. By the time their wedding day arrived in mid-August, much of Silver Creek had come to see the match as less peculiar than prescient Deputy Blackburn had simply recognized Cassidy's value before others caught on. The ceremony took place in the small church where Cassidy had spent countless Sundays listening to sermons about women's proper place, while secretly sketching ceiling trusses in the margins of her hymnal. Now she stood beneath those same trusses, wearing a gown of ivory silk she and her mother had created together, her hand clasped firmly in Cole's as they exchanged vows. I, Cole, take you, Cassidy, to be my lawfully wedded wife. He spoke clearly, his voice carrying to the back pews. To have and to hold, from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and health. He paused, his eyes holding hers with unmistakable meaning as he added, to support your dreams as my own, to believe in your vision when others doubt, and to build our life together on the foundation of mutual respect and enduring love, until death do us part. The personalized addition to the traditional vows brought tears to Cassidy's eyes and murmurs of approval from the congregation. When it came her turn, she responded with equal conviction, promising not only her love and fidelity, but also her partnership in creating a life that honored both their callings. Their wedding night was spent in the small house on Maple Street that came with the sheriff's position, a position not yet Cole's officially, but which the county commissioners had all but guaranteed would be his come January. The modest dwelling needed considerable work, but Cassidy saw not its current shabbiness but its potential. The roof line could be extended here, she murmured as they stood in the bedroom, her architectural eye never quite at rest. And with larger windows on the western wall, the sunset light would. Cole silenced her with a kiss that spoke of desires more immediate than home improvements. Mrs. Blackburn, he murmured against her lips, while I admire your professional insights, perhaps we might focus on more personal matters at present. His use of her new name sent a thrill through her. Mrs. Blackburn, she repeated, savoring the sound. Wife of the future sheriff, student of architecture, and the woman I love beyond reason, Cole added, drawing her closer. The cleverest, most determined, most beautiful woman in the Wyoming territory. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of adjustment and preparation. By day, Cassidy settled into married life, establishing their household and beginning preliminary sketches for renovations to the house that would await her return from Denver. By night, she discovered the joys of marriage to a man who cherished both her mind and her body, whose respect for her ambitions only enhanced his devotion to her as a wife. All too soon, September arrived, bringing with it the day of her departure. Standing on the train platform with her trunk packed and her architectural supplies carefully stowed, Cassidy fought against the tears threatening to spill. For months until Christmas break, Cole reminded her, his own voice suspiciously rough, and I'll visit at least twice before then. It seems so long, Cassidy whispered, clinging to his hands. Maybe I should defer for a year, wait until— No, Cole interrupted firmly. We agreed this is the right path. The timing will never be perfect, but the opportunity is now. He cupped her face gently. I fell in love with a woman of vision and courage. Don't lose those qualities now. She nodded, drawing strength from his confidence. I'll make you proud. You already do, he assured her, kissing her with a tenderness that belied the passion they'd shared in their brief weeks as husband and wife. Now go show Denver what Cassidy Blackburn can do. As the train pulled away, Cassidy watched Cole standing tall on the platform, his hand raised in farewell, growing smaller but no less present in her heart. She was leaving Silver Creek physically, but she carried with her the town's gradual shift from scorn to recognition of her dreams, a shift made possible by one man's unwavering belief. The architectural program in Denver proved even more challenging and rewarding than Cassidy had anticipated. As one of only 2 female students, she faced skepticism from some professors and outright hostility from certain male classmates. Yet for every obstacle, she found unexpected allies: Professor Wilson's steadfast mentorship, her fellow female students' solidarity, and most importantly, Cole's constant letters filled with encouragement and love. Remember what we discovered about the Wallace homestead's failing foundation? He wrote in October. How something sound on the surface can hide structural weaknesses. I found the same applies to people. Those most vocal about your unsuitability for architecture are often hiding their own insecurities. Stand firm in your knowledge, my love. Your foundation is solid. His visits, though brief, sustained her through difficult periods of doubt. In November, he surprised her by arriving with rolled blueprints from Mr. Wallace's new house, which was now under construction based on Cassidy's design. The contractor had questions about this support beam, Cole explained, spreading the drawings across her small dormitory desk. I thought you'd want to consult. That he had traveled a full day to bring her this professional courtesy, treating her designs with the seriousness they deserved even while others questioned her capabilities, reinforced what made their marriage unique. They spent that evening huddled over the blueprints, Cassidy making adjustments and Cole asking insightful questions that helped clarify her intentions for the builder. You'd have made a fine architect yourself, she told him as they parted at the train station the next morning. Cole smiled, kissing her forehead. I prefer supporting the architect I married. Your success will be sweeter for having earned it yourself. Christmas brought a joyful reunion in Silver Creek, where Cassidy found herself welcomed with surprising warmth. The Wallace house, now partially constructed, had become something of a local attraction, with townspeople regularly walking past to observe its progress. Mrs. Henderson actually asked if I might consider sketching ideas for her daughter's new home after Charlotte's wedding, Cassidy told Cole incredulously as they decorated their small Christmas tree. The same Mrs. Henderson who said no decent man would hire a female architect. Cole laughed, hanging a hand-carved wooden star at the top. Silver Creek is slowly entering the modern age, it seems. Though I suspect economic pragmatism plays a role, your partial scholarship makes your designs more affordable than hiring an architect from Cheyenne or Denver. I don't care why they're coming around, Cassidy admitted. Just that they are. It means I might actually establish a practice here someday, after graduation. Sheriff's wife by day, architect by. Also day, Cole teased, pulling her into his arms. While I maintain law and order, you'll design the buildings where lawbreakers stand trial. A perfect partnership. The winter and spring terms passed in a rhythm of separation and reunion that, while difficult, strengthened their appreciation for the time they did share. Cassidy excelled in her studies, earning the grudging respect of professors who had initially dismissed her. Cole, officially installed as sheriff of Silver Creek in January, transformed the local law enforcement with the same thoughtful efficiency he brought to everything. By the summer of 1879, when Cassidy returned home for the break between academic years, their house on Maple Street had been partially renovated according to her designs, with Cole doing much of the work himself during her absence. "I followed your drawings exactly," he said proudly, showing her the extended kitchen with its clever built-in storage and improved natural light. "Though I confess I had to consult Thomas Peterson on some of the more technical aspects." "It's perfect," Cassidy assured him, delighted by how he had brought her vision to life, "just as I imagined it." Their summer together passed too quickly, filled with continued renovations, social obligations, and precious private moments, rebuilding the intimate connection that distance had made challenging to maintain. When September approached, bringing with it the start of Cassidy's second year, the parting seemed both easier and harder. Easier for being familiar, harder for reminding them of all they missed when separated. "One more year," Cole reminded her as they once again stood on the train platform. "Then you'll return for good, with your diploma and the knowledge to make your mark on this town." Indeed, Silver Creek had undergone its own transformation during the past year. The Wallace House, now completed and occupied, stood as a testament to Cassidy's talent, its elegant yet practical design drawing admiration even from former skeptics. 2 more commissions had materialized: a new mercantile building for Mr. Donovan, whose business was expanding, and renovations to the town's small hotel. "Mrs. Donovan actually told me she was proud to have a local architect handling their new store," Cassidy marveled. "The same woman who once said my interest in buildings was unnatural in a female." "People change when presented with undeniable evidence," Cole replied. "Your success is becoming that evidence." The final year of Cassidy's education brought both professional triumph and personal joy. In December, during his Christmas visit to Denver, Cole shared news that left her breathless with happiness. "I'm not sure," she whispered late that night as they lay entwined in the small room she had rented near campus. "It's too soon to know for certain, but I've missed 2 months now, and I feel different." Cole's hand moved to rest protectively over her still flat abdomen, his expression a mixture of awe and concern. "Will this complicate your studies? Your graduation?" That he asked this first, rather than questioning her ability to complete her education at all, reinforced everything she loved about him. "The baby wouldn't arrive until after graduation, if my calculations are correct. Perhaps June or July." "Perfect timing," Cole murmured, pulling her closer. "Our family begins just as your professional life can start in earnest." By spring, there was no hiding her condition, though her loose dresses and architectural portfolios provided some camouflage. Professor Wilson, upon being discreetly informed, ensured that her pregnancy did not interfere with her academic standing. "You're not the first student to combine education and family responsibilities," he told her kindly. "And your work remains exemplary. Impending motherhood has not diminished your architectural eye." In May of 1880, Cassidy Blackburn graduated second in her class from the Denver School of Engineering's architectural program, an achievement made all the more remarkable by the gentle swell beneath her academic robes. Cole sat in the audience, his face shining with pride as she received her diploma, the first step toward formal licensing as an architect. "I have a graduation gift for you," he told her that evening as they celebrated with dinner at Denver's finest restaurant. He handed her an envelope containing official-looking papers. Cassidy opened it to find a deed and business license. "Blackburn Architectural Services," she read aloud, her eyes widening. "Cole, what is this?" "The storefront next to the law office became available last month," he explained. "I secured it for your practice. It needs renovation, of course, but who better to design that than its occupant?" Overwhelmed with emotion, Cassidy reached for his hand across the table. "You never doubted this day would come, did you? Even when I had moments of uncertainty, you always believed." "I recognized quality of character and vision from our first meeting," Cole replied simply. "The town that once scorned your dreams has come to value them just as I always knew they would, once they saw what I saw." Their return to Silver Creek as a family unit, Cassidy, Cole, and their expected child, marked the beginning of a new chapter. The small office Cole had secured quickly transformed under Cassidy's design guidance into a professional space where clients could review plans and discuss architectural possibilities. Word of her formal education and the success of her existing projects brought a steady stream of commissions, from private homes to commercial spaces. In July 1880, their daughter Clara Elizabeth Blackburn entered the world with a robust cry that, as Cole joked, suggested architectural acoustics were already of interest to her. The challenges of balancing new motherhood with a fledgling practice proved substantial, but with Cole's unwavering support and her mother's practical assistance, Cassidy established a rhythm that accommodated both her professional ambitions and her maternal responsibilities. The town that had once mocked her dreams gradually became the showcase for her talent. By 1885, buildings designed by Cassidy Blackburn graced many of Silver Creek's most prominent streets. The courthouse, her most ambitious public commission, incorporated the innovative features she had first sketched years earlier at the abandoned Wallace homestead, now preserved as a historical site rather than returned to its former dereliction. Strange to think this is where it all began, Cole mused one spring afternoon in 1888, as they picnicked near the old cabin with their children, 8-year-old Clara and 3-year-old Martin. Where a skeptical deputy first saw the drawings of a woman who would transform not just buildings, but an entire community's perception of what was possible. Cassidy leaned against her husband's shoulder, watching their children play among the wildflowers. "I couldn't have done it without you believing first," she said softly. "When everyone else saw impossibility, you saw potential." "I saw you," Cole corrected, kissing her temple. "The rest was inevitable." In the distance, Silver Creek's skyline was visible, a testament to what could be achieved when dreams were nurtured rather than scorned. The town that had once ridiculed Cassidy's ambitions now proudly claimed her as their own, a pioneer in her field and living proof that talent, when recognized and supported, could transcend the artificial boundaries of convention. And at the heart of that transformation stood a love story as sturdy and enduring as the structures Cassidy designed, built on the solid foundation of mutual respect, shared vision, and one man's unwavering belief in a woman's dreams.